So hi everyone, welcome to our Camino webinar. I'm one of the product managers here at Max Adventure. I've worked for Max Adventure for 8 years now, and I know the Camino very, very well from having booked it for many years and also being a product manager for it and looking after the tour. I've also just returned from walking the final stage of the Camino, from the Camino Francés, that is, from Sarria to Santiago. So everything's fresh in my head and I'm ready to answer lots of questions, hopefully. So the first thing I just kind of wanted to explain, and first of all I should say the reason we're doing this, we know the Camino is a fantastic adventure, you're sure to have a great experience, but we do know there's a lot of questions that come along with it, so hopefully we'll manage to answer lots of those today. And yeah, fingers crossed it's a good tool for you to set you off on your adventure. So first of all, what are self-guided adventures all about and what should you expect from a self-guided adventure on the Camino? So basically a self-guided adventure is all about doing everything at your own pace, at your own time and having your own adventure. So you're being independent, but you've got the backup support there from ourselves and from our lovely local partners in Spain as well. Nothing should go wrong while you're on the Camino, but it's always reassuring to know that you've got that backup support there should you need it. One of the really nice things about doing a self-guided walk on the Camino is that you can go at your own pace. So you can start off whatever time you like in the morning. I wouldn't recommend too late because otherwise you'll get in very late for dinner. But set off, go at your own pace, take your time. You're not with a group, so you don't need to walk with anybody else's timing and arrive when you want at your next accommodation. Second thing, it's a great sense of achievement. Whether you're walking the final stage of one of the Camino routes, the last 100 kilometres, or if you're walking the full Camino Francés, 800 kilometres from San Juan all the way to Santiago, no matter what section you're doing, it's a great sense of achievement you get on finishing. Having finished the Sarria to Santiago section myself last week, I can only tell you how emotional it is at the end. You also get to meet lots of interesting people. That's a huge part of the Camino experience, I would say. People from all over the world come to do all of the Caminos, so you'll meet people from Australia, Asia, Europe, people from all over the world come to do these Camino walks, so you're sure to meet lots of interesting characters. And lastly, a self-guided adventure is really it's a good experience. You don't need to worry. The Caminos are all very clearly marked paths, so there's little shell symbols everywhere to keep you on the right path. We do also provide good route notes and maps as well, so you don't need to worry about getting lost at all. So here at Max Adventure we do offer several Camino routes. Now the most popular one of those is the Camino Francés, which I'm sure many of you will be doing, which runs all the way from San Juan to Santiago. But we do also offer several other routes, which include the Camino Inglés, the Primitivo, the Camino del Norte, the Camino Portugués, Via de la Plata and de la Puy as well. No matter what one of these routes you're doing, you're sure to have a great time. They do all offer a slightly different experience. Some of them are quieter routes than others, but no matter which one you're doing, you're sure to have a fantastic experience. We will try and mention some of the other routes as we go along today, because depending on some of the questions, the answers might be slightly different depending on what stage of the Camino we're looking at, but we will try and make that clear as we're talking. So for part of your kind of Camino experience, just to kind of give you a bit of information about what you will receive for your adventure. So before you travel, you will receive a pre-departure information pack from us. This includes a guidebook. It also includes a pre-departure information pack, your accommodation list, so you can see in advance exactly all the lovely places you're going to be staying, and you will receive your invoice as well. And then on arrival, at your first night's accommodation, you'll receive a lovely little pack which has accommodation vouchers, accommodation maps to show you how to find your hotels, luggage labels, which are really important to attach to your bags, and you also get your day-by-day detailed route notes as well. All of the Camino routes, as I've mentioned already, are very well remarked. To be completely honest, on the Camino Frances, I actually very rarely looked at my route north then because it's so well remarked. But it's really good that you've got them as a backup. As I say, some of the other Caminos are slightly quieter, so it's always good to have that reassurance that you've got a guidebook and route notes as well to help you on your way. So I believe next I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Nicola, and she is going to just tell you a little bit more about what to expect in Camino with regards to accommodation and meals and lots of other things.
Thanks, Laura. I'm Nicola. I have been with Max for nearly 3 years now, and I've been lucky enough to actually walk one of the quieter Caminos, the Camino Inglés, in July 2015, and absolutely loved it. It was a wonderful, wonderful trip. Now, I'm just going to give you a bit of information about the accommodation that we feature, meals, baggage transfers, and what to pack. Firstly, we get lots of questions about what type of accommodation do we book for our customers. Primarily, it is going to be 2 to 3 star small guest houses or hotels. A lot of these are family run, just to keep the experience a bit more authentic. We can, of course, in certain places book you some nice fancy accommodation called Paradors. Especially, we book quite a lot of people into Santiago Parador, and it's a great way to finish your trip. It's situated on the square, right beside the cathedral, and if you're looking for a little bit of luxury at the end of the trip, it's absolutely perfect. As Laura mentioned, in your welcome pack on arrival, you will get little maps just to show you how to get to each accommodation every night. They don't tend to be very far off the route itself, so you're not finding that you're going to be walking miles. Sometimes, though, due to availability, you might find your accommodation is maybe in another town. In this instance, what will happen is we'll provide you with a transfer, and full details of where to get the transfer and where you'll be picked up and dropped off the following day is always very clearly shown on your accommodation lists. On arrival, for most of the Caminos, you will get vouchers. So all you need to do is show your voucher and normally your passport on arrival, and hotel reception will check in at that point. We're now going on to probably my favourite subject, food. Breakfast, you'll plenty get a lot of questions about what's breakfast. Is it going to be enough? Is it going to be filling? Breakfast themselves along the Camino tends to be very continental, so you'll get a choice of fantastic breads, cold meats, cheeses, yogurts, lots of fresh fruits, all very healthy, all going to kind of fill you up for your day's walking. Some accommodations, depending on where you are, will offer a cooked option as well, but they're always absolutely fantastic and they will fill you up till lunchtime, definitely. Menu of the day is another thing we get asked a lot of questions about. Along some of the more popular routes, especially the Camino Frances and the final section of the Camino Portuguese, you'll find a lot of places will offer a menu of the day. This is normally between about 12 to 15 euros, so really good value for money, and you normally get 2 courses and a glass of wine or a beer. Again, always good wholesome food, really filling, and again, after a good long day's walk, it is the perfect thing for you. Big highlight for me when I was walking the Camino Inglés in Galicia was the food, and when you're walking through all the nice towns, it is really amazing that you get to try some of the local produce. Places like Ferrol, Ponte di Emi, you get amazing seafood, scallops. Oh, it is absolutely wonderful. As you can tell, I like my food. Next part we get asked quite a lot is what happens with the bags. Your baggage transfer is always automatically included with all of our Camino trips, so you don't have to worry about that. It's 1 bag per person, and we do say to limit the weight to about 18 kilograms, and this is just purely so that the drivers aren't have to carry too heavy a bag. They tend to get collected between about 8:30 and 9 o'clock every day, so if you can leave it at reception, and if you're off early, reception will look after your bag for you. The delivery, again, depending on the trip, will be normally in early afternoon, but we tend to say at the latest 5 o'clock. Sometimes you will get there before your bags, just depending on how many bags they have to deliver each day. A huge thing is don't pack any breakables. Any breakables, carry them in your day pack. Sometimes there's a number of bags getting moved every day. You might find there's a bag on top of your suitcase or rucksack, so just don't pack any breakables. And the type of bag you want to carry with you, again, anything that does close properly, rucksack, suitcase, either would be absolutely perfect. We don't actually offer baggage storage. I know a lot of people are coming from, say, Australia and doing a lot of trips that within Europe that include the Camino. We don't offer baggage storage, but what we can do is transport the bags from the start point to your end point in, say, Santiago. Just let us know if you want us to do that, and we can get a price from the local partners. Depending on the weight of the bag and the size of the bag, it can be a little bit expensive, but it is most definitely worth it if you do have a lot of luggage. Another question we do get asked quite a lot is, how do you get to the walk start points? On the whole, these are pretty easily accessible by either bus or train. In Spain, the main bus companies are like Monbus, Alsa, and the train companies Renfe. We can, though, which is perfect if you're arriving quite late at night, offer a private transfer. Private transfers will pick you up from the airport, it will take you to the accommodation, a really quick and easy process. Can be a bit expensive, but to be honest, if you're arriving in quite late and you want to get a good night's sleep, it's sometimes most definitely worth it. Now, another very important question is what to pack. I would tend to say don't have a huge bag, because you'll be tempted to put so much in it and it'll be overweight. So again, a normal size suitcase and a normal sized rucksack would be absolutely perfect. Things to pack in your kind of case: good boots, and make sure you've kind of broken them in. Some of the trips you can get away with good walking shoes, but again, make sure they're waterproof. A lot of places you'll be walking through does tend to get a little bit of rain, so make sure they're waterproof, and again, making sure that they're completely broken in and you're used to wearing them for distances especially. You don't really have to carry too much in the way of clothing at night. Most people aren't going about partying at night, so a pair of jeans, a dress, flip-flops, sandals is absolutely fine, so you don't have to have too much for your kind of evening wear. Again, depending on when you're going, it's really important to carry layers with you, whether it's shirt, fleece. It is just perfect, especially if you're leaving quite early in the morning and it's a little bit cooler. It means you're kind of fully prepared for the day's walk. And another kind of good idea is waterproofs as well, just making sure you're always carrying your waterproofs with you. Galicia, especially, but northern Spain as a whole, tends to get a lot more rain in the Mediterranean areas, so carrying a good set of waterproofs with you will be a godsend, trust me. One thing that I never travel without is my first aid kit. It always has a good selection of plasters, blister kit, antiseptic lotions. I never go anywhere without it, so make sure you get a kind of first aid kit that works for you. Depending on what Camino you're actually doing, you may find you may need walking poles, and that's especially pertinent if you are going to be walking in the first stage of the Camino Frances, because you will be walking over the Pyrenees. So walking poles are a must. It's really handy if you get tougher descents, because it's good for the knees. So if you do have any problems with your knees as well, it is definitely worth taking a set of walking poles with you. On the back end of the fact that it can rain quite a lot, it's Spain, it's also going to be quite sunny. So make sure you have a good factor sun cream with you, and make sure you're applying it during the day. The last thing you want to do is find yourself on the first few days of a trip and you're a little bit sunburned. Water and snacks, again, on your day-to-day route notice will tell you where you can stop throughout the day to pick up water, pick up snacks, but just make sure you have a sufficient enough to kind of keep you going, so you're not going hungry, you're not going thirsty. Especially in the hotter months, it's really important to make sure you're properly hydrated. And a great tip from Laura, come back from our final stage, flip-flops. When you arrive into Santiago, you will go for your certificate, you will wait in a queue. Laura waited 2 hours to get her certificate, and there's nothing worse when you're standing and not walking, your feet are killing you, you want to have something comfy on your feet, so flip-flops are a complete must.
Definitely.
Last but not least, travel insurance. I never travel overseas without travel insurance. I just wouldn't do it. It is very important to make sure you have this. It covers you for all eventualities, illness, lost baggage. There's so many things that it will actually cover you for. We personally don't supply travel insurance, but if you have a look at some information that we can send through to you, we can give you some kind of hints and tips of companies to use. We haven't used these companies before, as we're not licensed to sell insurance, so it is worthwhile having a look to see and make sure that you're happy with the coverage that they're going to offer you. And I think I am going to pass you over to my lovely colleague Sinead who's going to talk a few things for you in preparation for your trip.
Hi, I'm Sinead and I work with the European and Camino trips here at Max. I've not actually been on one of the Camino trips yet, I'm sure that's soon to come, but I do actually feel as though I have been on it with working with it so much the last year and a half. So I'm going to talk about currency, how much money you should take, which people always ask, then I'll touch on health and fitness, a little bit about travel, and then touch on cycling the Camino as well. So I'll start off with currency. I'm sure most of you know that euros is the currency that's used in Spain. Personally, what I would recommend, because we do get asked a lot, is to have a combination of cash as well as your credit or debit cards. You will find when you're walking along the Camino that the larger towns have got cash machines. So what I would do is take enough cash to last you a couple of days, because you will find that if you're constantly lifting out cash, you will get bank fees with the currency exchange. And if you're like me and you like to top off for coffees as much as possible, then the smaller cafes will definitely only accept cash. So yeah, a good mix. It is difficult to say how much exactly you need per day, because it obviously depends on your spending. But as a kind of rough guideline, I would say about 50 to 60 euros per day should get you your lunch, dinner, any little kind of snacks along the way, and maybe some souvenirs as well. Yeah, after the first couple of days, you will start to find how you're spending and be able to work it out from there. So yeah, I'll move on now to health and fitness. Another really common question we get asked. Again, it's not the easiest to answer just because one of the great things about the Camino is we get people from all different kind of fitness levels doing it and all different backgrounds. We've got some kind of first-time hikers doing it, which is amazing, and then we get some walkers who they've done already Caminos before. So yeah, we've got a great kind of mix of people doing it. My personal recommendation would be just to get in as much preparation as possible, and it's simply just because you'll get the best experience from it if you feel comfortable when you're walking. We definitely say get a good bit of back-to-back walking in, so feel comfortable kind of hiking with your day pack and walking day after day, because obviously you are covering quite a distance each day as well. Definitely at the start of the trip, pace yourself, don't take it too fast, it's not a race, it's just about really enjoying the trip. And if you find the first few days you're managing it no problem, then obviously you can take it up a notch after that. But yeah, definitely go at your own pace. I'm moving on slightly now to health and to kind of health concerns. So if you do require medication, just make sure that you are prepared and you have that with you in advance. You don't want to be worrying about that once you get to Spain. Definitely make sure you've got it handy as well, so in your day pack, have it somewhere so that it is easy to access. And yeah, definitely if you have any issues about your health or medication, definitely speak to your doctor before you head out to Spain. My colleague Nicola touched on travel a little bit with you. It really depends on what section you're doing with regards to getting to the start point and from the finish point. But the great thing about the Camino is it's so accessible, and public transport is really cheap and easy to use. We do have some great resources. You'll find that regardless of where you're going on the Camino Frances, for sure that ALSA is the main kind of bus provider. So we've got a good website for all of these travel providers that we can give you after the presentation. But yeah, ALSA is the main kind of bus provider. You've got Renfe, who operates the trains, and then there's Monbus as well that do the kind of smaller local routes. But yeah, we'll give you all this information. If you have any queries at all about your travel, let your destination specialist know, and they'll give you all the information you need. Okay, so moving on to cycling the Camino. We might have some customers that are already doing it this season, or just some people that are interested in it. At the moment, we only sell the Leon to Santiago section. It's worthwhile knowing that it is a tough trip. It is one of our kind of more challenging cycling routes, and we definitely recommend it to kind of keen cyclists, customers that have cycled quite a bit before, and preferably have got some kind of mountain bike skills. There will be long days on the saddle, and most days you are covering up to about 60 kilometres. But if you are a keen cyclist, it's definitely a great way to see the Camino. You'll get a different perspective of it. One thing to bear in mind is that it will be busy, the path, with other walkers, so definitely be careful, give them their space and slow down a little bit. But yeah, the great thing about doing the Camino on bike is our local partner is a great resource. So once you get to your first accommodation, the bikes will be there and waiting for you. You can try them out, make sure you're comfortable with them. And yeah, if there was any issues whatsoever, a local partner would be there to assist you. But yeah, you're well kitted for the bike trip. They come with your water bottle. You've got a lock, your helmet, a repair kit. So if you do have a kind of small puncture, we would expect that you're able to fix that yourself. But obviously, if there is a bigger kind of mechanical fault, our local partner is great, and they do actually have a kind of support vehicle. So if you needed it, they could come along the route and either fix the bike for you or bring a new bike so that you can get back on your way. And yeah, standard pedals come with the bike, so it is the flat pedals. But if you are wanting to use your own kind of SPD pedals, that's not a problem. You would just bring your own tools and fit them, and if you need support, we'd help you with that as well. Okay, actually back on to Laura that's going to talk about the Camino passport.
Okay, so one of the main reasons that people have for doing the Camino is to qualify for their Camino, their Compostela certificate at the end of the walk. To qualify for this, you need to have walked at least 100 kilometres, at least a final 100 kilometres of any of the routes, or to have cycled the last 200 kilometres. But basically, your Camino passport is the document which you get stamped along the way, just to show the pilgrim office at the end where you've come from and where you've been, just to prove that you have walked kilometres to entitle you for the passport. I do have, I think somewhere, you can just see here. This is my passport I collected last week, and basically you just get it stamped every day. It opens up like this, and you get it stamped twice a day. I'm not too sure how well you can see that, but it's a very nice souvenir of your trip, and also it gives you a real sense of achievement at the end as well. So with your Camino passport, that will be on in your arrival pack when you arrive. So it's part of your package you get when you arrive at your first accommodation. Yeah, and that will be there waiting for you. Nicola's just going to explain a little bit more about how it works.
One of the great things about the Camino passport is you can get it stamped in so many different places. Firstly, your overnight accommodation. So when you're checking out, just get them to stamp your passport. But the great thing is, along the route itself, there are lots of cafes, bars, restaurants, even some little grocery shops, as well as churches and official kind of places that you can actually get your passport stamped. So there's always plenty of choice. Depending on which route you're taking, will depend on how many stamps you need to get a day. On the whole, for let's say final section of the Camino Frances or the Camino Inglés, the one I walked, we had to get our passport stamped twice a day. So that was hotel in the morning as we were checking out, and a little kind of cafe wherever we stopped along the route. And once you arrive into Santiago, the certificate office is situated quite near to the cathedral itself. And this is where you stand and wait in your little queue, and it is worth it because you do feel such a huge sense of achievement when you get your certificate at the end. But you get this from the certificate office. And I think my colleague Laura actually has a certificate with her.
Yes, yes. I think I've left it actually. Oh, my colleague's just about to get it for me, so. Oh, here I've got it. Yeah, so this is just your little certificate you get at the end. Again, I'm not too sure how you can see this, but basically this is the whole reason for doing the Camino. Well, not the whole reason, but one of the main reasons. And you just pay €3 to get a little personalised version of the certificate when you get to the end, and it gets put in a nice little scroll for you. And as I say, it's a lovely souvenir of your trip. I know I'm going to get mine framed along with my passport because it's a huge achievement. So I think now we're going to move on to some of the questions that people have sent in to us. So if I can just plough on with that. So basically, these are some of the kind of frequently asked questions we get asked all the time. So hopefully this answers everything. But as I say, we are sending a recording out of this as well. If there's anything that we haven't been able to answer today, we will be able to get back to you afterwards as well. But our first question we have is, what amenities are there along the way with regards to shops, restaurants, toilets, etc.? So this really depends on the actual Camino you're doing. So for example, in the Camino Frances, you can expect to find a cafe or a shop literally every few kilometres, sometimes even less than that. So there's facilities along the whole way. Those cafes will always have toilets, etc. So yeah, plenty of facilities. Some of the kind of quieter routes, like the Camino del Norte, for example, or the Camino Primitivo, or even the Inglés as well, you might not expect to find quite as many shops and restaurants. You will always have somewhere, I would say, that you can stop for lunch, but maybe not quite as many to kind of stop much more than that. So it really depends on the route, but you will always at least get a cafe or a shop or a restaurant at lunchtime, I would say, to stop along the way.
Another thing we do get asked quite a lot is the route safe for solo walkers and the solo female walkers. And the great thing is we have so many solo female walkers actually doing all of our Camino trips every year, and it is perfectly safe. The one thing, or the one piece of advice that I always give customers, is that as long as you are exercising an element of common sense and you're not doing anything that you wouldn't do at home, then you will be absolutely fine.
Okay, so another question we have is, are there churches along the way, and can I book in? So yeah, to answer that, there is lots and lots of churches along the route, and if you are religious, it can be a real highlight of the trip. It really depends what section of the Camino you're doing, but if you do have a kind of special request, or you do want to spend a day visiting one of the churches and want us to book that for you, we can definitely look into that. So just let your specialist know that you're working with, and they'll check that out for you.
Okay, another one of the highlights of finishing the walk in Santiago is the Pilgrim Mass, which takes place every day at Santiago Cathedral. There's a Pilgrim Mass at 12 o'clock, 12 midday, and there's also one at 7:30 in the evening as well. So this is a real highlight of doing the Camino. All the pilgrims attend the Mass. I would say it's definitely worth arriving early, because it does get packed out. So I would recommend arriving at least half an hour to 45 minutes before the service starts, to make sure that you do get a seat. I arrived a little late and had to stand the whole service, and when you've just walked 100 kilometres, that's not really what you want to do. So arrive early to make sure you get a seat, but yeah, it's definitely an experience you won't want to miss.
Everyone's got mobile phones these days, so we do get asked quite a lot, is there going to be mobile phone or cell phone coverage along the route? And again, yeah, on the whole, it will be absolutely fine. You will have some cell phone coverage and some mobile phone coverage along the route. There's going to be slightly more remote areas, say when you're walking through the Pyrenees, when you maybe not have a great signal, so you have to bear that in mind. And some of the smaller villages that you may be staying in, again, you may not have great coverage. But on the whole, yeah, you should be absolutely fine. It's also worth double checking with your mobile phone provider before you leave, whether it's the US, Australia, whatever, just to make sure that you can use your phone in Spain. And you may have to buy like a local SIM card, and that may work for you as well.
Okay, so the question I have is, do I have to speak good Spanish? We do get asked this a lot, and the answer is no. Personally, I think it's part of the adventure if you can learn a few words, and the locals will really appreciate it. But in the accommodations and in the bars, you'll find that there's at least one person who can speak good English. So if you can't speak good Spanish, definitely don't worry about it. I know that Laura and Nicola both are fluent in Spanish, and they survived, so you'll be just fine.
We also get asked quite a lot, can I access water along the route? The answer to that is absolutely. your day-by-day route notes do give some information on this. There are some fountains which you can drink the water from. We wouldn't necessarily always recommend that, but your daily route notes do have a description and name the ones that are safe to drink from. But generally, as I mentioned earlier, there are quite a lot of cafes and restaurants along the route where you can actually ask them to fill up your water bottle as well, or you can actually buy bottles of water, which some people prefer. So yeah, there's absolutely plenty of places to fill up your water along the route so you won't go thirsty.
Food is really important, so finding somewhere for lunch is kind of high on everyone's list when they do set out on a walk. On the whole, you're going, again, depending on the walk itself, you'll find places along the way that you'll be able to stop and have a quiet bite to eat. Some of the smaller or more quieter Camino walks, you may find it might be quite further along the route itself before you find anywhere. The good thing is on your day-to-day route notes, it is described each day where the services are. So you will know before you set off if you're going to have to walk most of the way before there's a cafe. So you'll know to take some lunch with you. These route notes are quite detailed when it comes to services, so you won't have to worry at all. Just remember to look at these the night before or before you set off in the morning.
Perfect. So the question I have is, do I have to bring a sleeping bag? No, you don't. We book you into small hotels and bed and breakfasts along the route. So you'll be very glad at the end of a long day's walk that you're checking into a nice cosy room with private suite facilities. So yeah, you'd only need a sleeping bag if you were camping or if you were staying in one of the albergues.
Okay, so next question. If you don't want to walk one day, how do you get a transfer? So this can happen. You may get blisters, like I unfortunately did, and that doesn't mean that you're stuck. So it is possible to arrange a transfer to take you from one village onto your next overnight stop. It's really easy to arrange that through our local partners in Spain. They do actually have an office in Santiago, so they're right there. So the full contact telephone numbers are there for them in your information pack. You would simply give them a phone when you're there and they'll be able to arrange a taxi transfer for you. It is worth pointing out that it isn't always the cheapest. Some of these villages aren't always linked by direct roads, so it's just worth bearing in mind that it might be quite a long transfer, and it can sometimes be quite expensive as well. But it's really good to know that it's there as a backup if you need it, should you need the service to get transferred on.
Next question we have is, what type of power converter should we use if you're coming from the US? Now that's a really good question, and to be honest, I had to go and look this up. You're looking for a rounded 2-pin extension converter plug that's 230 volts. Now, I hope that makes sense.
The next question is, what is the weather in the Pyrenees Mountains like? It can be changeable whenever you're walking in the kind of Alps, as long as you are prepared, so obviously have a good rain jacket with you and waterproofs. We do only sell this first stage of the Camino between April and October, and that's because it's when the weather is most kind of suitable for this type of hiking. So you shouldn't have any issues as long as you are prepared and have your waterproofs with you.
Okay, so next question, where do I find up-to-date information on the bus transfers? So there's several resources. The information pack that we do send you out before you head off on your trip does have lots of travel information on there, which you can refer to. We've also got detailed links on our website to the various bus websites like ALSA, Monbus, and also the train website as well, Renfe. But we will be sending out, as we see this webinar afterwards, and that will have a list of the useful links as well that you can go on to. So it's always worth going on to the website itself to get the most up-to-date information, because obviously timetables can change quite frequently. So I would just double check on the bus and train websites, which we will provide you the links for.
Perfect. And the last question we have here at the moment is, should we carry our passports or put them in our luggage? I personally would always carry my passports in my day pack. just because I always carry my passport about with me. But also, when you're checking into your accommodation, you're going to need your passport for check-in. You will get registered with the hotel, so they'll need your passport details. So see, my recommendation would be carry your passport with you at all times when you're walking.
Okay. So I think we've just got a few more questions that have come in live to us, just as we've been talking. So I think we're just going to have a look at these just now. One of the first ones I've got here at the moment, which is just a little topical note of interest for everyone. Robert and Judy would like to know what is the meaning of the shell, why the scallop shell? So basically the reason for this, St James, when he was smuggled back to Spain, he was thrown overboard, poor St James, and his body was actually found on the beach covered in scallop shells. So that's the kind of meaning behind the shell. And another kind of symbol or reason behind it is the shell and the kind of the ridges on the shell, the individual lines, signify all the different routes there is to Santiago, where all of the Camino routes finish. There you go.
A great bit of information. Got a question from David, and he's asked will route notes be provided in the info pack. Not in the pre-departure info pack. This will be waiting for you on your welcome pack on arrival from our local partners. So you've got all your day-to-day route notes then.
Yeah, I'll move through these.
Yes.
So I've got one here from Cecilia, just asking what the temperature will be like in September. I always vouch for people to travel within Europe in September because it's my favourite time personally. It would depend slightly what section you're doing, but for most of the Camino, it's really nice weather in September. You're looking at kind of early to mid-20s during the day, and later on in September it does get a little bit cooler in the evening. So I would definitely say have some kind of light jackets or cardigans for the evening. But yeah, overall it should be pretty good weather for you.
We've got so many. So Rita, I believe you're walking the Camino del Norte, and heard it's a bit more rigorous. So any advice for walking that terrain? Yeah, absolutely. The Camino del Norte is definitely one of the more strenuous Camino routes. I think quite often people think because it's near the coast, you're walking along the coastline and it's easy, but you are going through quite mountainous terrain. My main advice for that, definitely take walking poles with you. They can be really, really useful in this type of terrain, particularly for in the kind of downhill sections as well. They help to give you a bit of rhythm and also give you lots of support in the mountainous terrain, which can sometimes be a bit kind of slippy underfoot as well. Also, just make sure you get plenty of training in. I would make sure that you are trying to do some walking in advance in kind of more like hillier terrain, just to kind of get you used to walking in higher kind of climates. You're obviously not walking to any huge ascents or huge altitude, sorry, but it will just get you trained up and make it a lot more enjoyable if you can get some training like that in advance. Also make sure you've got the correct walking footwear as well, because that really helps in that type of terrain. If your feet end up in a mess, then it could ruin your trip. So I'd really recommend having a good sturdy pair of walking boots with good ankle support and especially good walking socks. There's no point in investing in a good pair of boots if you don't have a good pair of socks to go with them. So I would really recommend that.
We've got a couple of questions here regarding the pre-departure information pack from Dennis and Peter. Now, normally the pre-departure information packs are sent between 1 to 2 months before you are due to set off on your trip, but it really depends on when you book the trip. If you've not received your information packs as of yet, please let us know after the webinar, and what we can do is have a look at it and just see what's happened to them, just to find out. Hope that's okay.
Yeah, I've got one here from Liz, who I guess is doing the Leon to Santiago cycling trip. So Liz has asked, how technical is the cycle route? I wouldn't say there's anything too technically difficult about the route as such. It's more just the change in terrain. So you will be following some kind of minor roads, some busy roads, and then you have dirt tracks and then cycle paths as well. So it's being used to cycling on kind of varied surfaces, and also cycling long distances as well. Like I said, it is up to about 60 kilometres each day as well. And I might leave you with this one. If I like that,
that's fine. I think Liz, you want to know where you should fly into from the US. If you're flying in from the US, then you'll probably fly into either Barcelona or Madrid as a kind of main hub, and then either take a connecting flight. You can get a connecting flight to Lyon. Lyon's got quite a small airport, or you could fly to, if there aren't any flights on that day, you could probably fly to Bilbao or Santander and get a train or bus down to Lyon.
And on that travel note, I've got Yvette asking, how do we get from the accommodation to the actual starting point of the walk? I think what you mean from this, Yvette, is the accommodation close to where you actually start your daily walk from, if I hope I've understood it right. Generally, your accommodation is very close to the start of the path, and in your accommodation directions and your accommodation map, you'll actually be able to see where it is in relation to the start of the path. Also, the accommodations themselves usually tell you exactly where to go. So they might tell you turn around the corner and you're on your way. So I just always ask my accommodation before I left in the morning exactly where the start of the path was, and they're usually the best resource for that.
Got a question from Mike. Mike has asked, can he skateboard the route? I would tend to say no. Cycling any of the Camino routes is a lot more difficult than walking, so I can't imagine how difficult it's going to be on a skateboard. I would tend to say stick to either your 2 feet or 2 wheels.
I have one here from Alice, who has asked the name of the route, Sarria to Santiago. Do you mean, is it the Camino Frances? If that is the question, then yeah, it is the Camino Frances, the French way that you'll be following, and it's the final stage. So on this trip, you do still earn your Compostela, because you're walking more than 100 kilometres. But if that's not what you were asking, let me know, Alice, and I can answer your question. I've also got one from Yvette, and she's asked what the weather will be like in October in the Camino del Norte. Similar to September, you will find that it's a little bit cooler, but there still should be plenty sunshiny days, probably around kind of 15 to 20 on good days. But again, because it is northern Spain, definitely be prepared and have some kind of waterproofs and rain jacket just in case you aren't as lucky.
Okay, so I've got a question here from Vivian. So Vivian wants to know, if we get a transfer, does it mean the passport doesn't get stamped? Unfortunately, that's correct, Vivian. Unfortunately, your passport doesn't get stamped. This isn't a problem when you're obviously doing one of the longer, like you're doing more than 100 kilometres of the route, but if you are only doing one of the stages where you're doing perhaps maybe the last 100 kilometres, the Pilgrim Office are quite strict, and you do need to have actually walked the last 100 kilometres to qualify for your Compostela. So obviously that's just quite important to keep in mind. If the Compostela certificate at the end is very important to you, do just keep that in mind if you are arranging any transfers and how that will affect the actual distance you've walked. I've just got one more here as well from Robert and Judy, and they're saying suggested time of arrival at San John. This is really up to you. You can arrive any time of the day. Bear in mind that check-in isn't generally until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock, depending on the hotel. We'd probably recommend arriving round about that time, because unless you've booked an extra night, it gives you time to see the town before having dinner. But you can arrive any time. If you are arriving very late, I would recommend probably arranging a private transfer just to make it a lot easier for you. And also restaurants do tend to kind of stop serving meals round about kind of 10 o'clock roughly at night. All towns and villages are slightly different, but just keep that in mind as well. We'd hate for you to be arriving and not being able to have anything to eat when you arrived.
I've got a question from David. He's asking how long it takes to clear customs and immigration on arrival at Madrid Airport. That really depends on where you're coming from, to be perfectly honest. If you come from the US or Australia, it may take slightly longer because there are more stringent checks in place. It's a really difficult question to answer, to be perfectly honest, because it depends how busy immigration is on that particular day. I recently went through Girona Airport, which gives a lot of holiday makers, and I was through within about 3/4 of an hour. But there have been some people saying that they've been waiting over an hour to an hour and a half. It honestly depends on how busy the airport is on the day and where you're coming from.
Going to the same day. I have two here that are quite similar. They're both about dietary requirements. The first one is from Helene, and she's asking about vegetarian food options. We do have customers with all different dietary requirements doing the Camino. It's not a problem. I would just highly recommend that you let us know in advance so that we can let the accommodations know for your breakfast. But the restaurants and bars along the way will have plenty of options for vegetarians. Just let them know. It might mean it's a little bit more limited, but they'll definitely do their best to cater for you. And it kind of ties into Nora's as well. She asked about a gluten-free diet. Again, Nora, I would recommend letting us know in advance, and we'll make sure the accommodation has something for you in the morning. And again, the restaurants and bars will be able to cater for you.
Okay, so I've just got a couple of questions just about some money as well. So from James, James wanted to know, for credit card transactions, do businesses in Spain require security chipped credit cards? I think by that you mean, does it need the chip in the back? No, you don't need the PIN credit card. I certainly had one that didn't have it, and it worked. I would maybe speak to your bank about this just before you travel, just to confirm. But certainly a lot of the places that I travelled to personally didn't seem to need it. And then from Louise, just asking about recommended location to exchange your dollars for euros. I would always try and do it before you travel, rather than at the airport. You'll always get a much better rate if you try and arrange it before you travel through a local travel agent, bank or post office or wherever you prefer to change your money. You do tend to get a much better rate if you do it in advance before you enter the airport.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. John has asked, can we share a transfer to reduce the cost? He's going to be travelling from Santiago to Ferrol. Unfortunately, we don't offer that service to actually match up with anyone else travelling that day. What I can say, Monbus, depending on what time you're arriving into Santiago, Monbus do actually offer a pretty good bus service that runs quite a few times during the day that will take you up to Ferrol, and the journey time is normally between an hour to an hour and a half. So it's not a long journey at all. So depending on when you actually arrive, you might actually be able to get the bus, and it works out roughly about 10, 11 euros. So it is quite a cheap and quite a quick service as well.
Okay, so I've got a couple here which are both about the accommodations. The first one is from Anne, and she's asking if there's any toiletries supplied at the accommodations. Personally, I wouldn't count on it, and I would take my own just because each accommodation varies. I don't know if you can add to that, Laura.
Yeah, so I mean, most of the hotels are a decent standard of hotels, so there will be some basic form of toiletries. But as Sinead said, I wouldn't probably rely on it. So I would try and take a small selection of your toiletries with you just in case. Most of them will have at least the basics.
And remember, these can all get packed in your luggage, which is getting transferred every day, so you're not having to carry it in your day pack. Robert and Judy has asked for suggested gear for travelling each day, and it's a good pair of waterproof shoes or boots that you've worn quite a lot that you've broken in. Make sure you're taking a few layers, so a fleece in case it's a little bit cold. Good socks, a really good pair of, make sure you get good socks with you because these will really help against blisters. A good first aid kit, doesn't have to be a huge one, but something that's going to have the basics that you need just so you developed a blister halfway along the route, you've got something there. And of course, waterproofs is a big kind of must.
So I've just got a couple of questions here just about kind of terrain and things like that. So James is asking, travelling from Leon to Santiago, is the path mostly dirt or asphalt? So I would say that, James, it's a combination. I would say about, it depends, each section is slightly different, but I would say maybe about kind of 70% I was on kind of dirt or trail paths. And some of the time you will be walking in tarmac or asphalt, kind of minor roads as well. There is the odd section where you do go into a slightly busier road, but I would say most of the time you are on kind of dirt paths. Also, Vivian has asked, is Sarria to Santiago mostly flat? And the answer to that is definitely yes. There is a few kind of small uphill sections, but there's absolutely nothing too strenuous at all. There is one section on, I think, day 2 when you walk into Porto Marin, where there's quite a long kind of uphill section, but the views by itself are worth it. So, but yeah, generally it is quite flat.
Okay, so I have one from Monique, and she has asked, where can I get a shell to hang on my pack? So when you're walking along the Camino, you're absolutely spoiled for choice. There's shops, there's little stalls, there's various places along the route that you can pick up a shell. And then obviously if you want to wait to Santiago, then again there'll be loads of kind of tourist shops that you can buy them from. So yeah, I don't think that's a problem, is it, to pick up?
I would on that note say to buy one at the start of your walk, because if you don't have a shell, you won't feel part of the gang. Okay. So everybody has, it's kind of part of the tradition to walk with a shell hanging from your backpack. So I'd recommend picking one up at the start of your walk, and actually it makes you really feel part of the experience.
Got a couple of questions left. The first one is from Valerie. And it was just to see what time would you normally get dinner, so evening meal. The Spanish do tend to eat quite late, and you'll tend to find restaurants won't tend to open until about 8 o'clock. Before then, if you want to grab a quick bite, you'll get cafes and bars that sell things like bocadillos, little baguettes and sandwiches and things like that beforehand. But for a proper evening meal, you'll tend to find most restaurants will be open from about 8ish onwards. Did you find that in the...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can always pick up something in the morning as well.
Yeah. Last question I've got is from Catherine. She's asked, do we receive information about the towns that we're hiking in, and are hiking poles available to hire when we get there? Your day-to-day route notes will give you a little bit of information on the towns that you're going to be walking through. Not a huge amount, but the great thing is we do provide you with a guidebook. So depending on what trip you're going on will be dependent on the guidebook, and you get lots of information about the places that you're walking through there. In regards to walking poles, unfortunately I'm not aware of anywhere that you can actually hire them. So if you do want to be using your poles, I would say take them with you on your trip.
I would just add to that as well, with the hiking poles, you can actually buy the traditional wooden hiking poles when you get there as well. So again, it's quite, if you wanted to just leave it till you got there and you're happy to walk with the traditional wooden hiking pole, then by all means you can do that as well. I think I've just got a couple more questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple here too. I've got one from Valerie, which is a really good question. We do get asked it quite a lot. Valerie's just asked, how do you know where to get a stamp? Will there be a sign? So when you pick up your pilgrim passport, it is important that you get at least 2 stamps per day when you're walking along the route. And there's various places you can get this stamp. You can go into the churches, some of the shops, the bars, the restaurants, and the accommodations as well. Will give you your stamps. Depending on the route you do as well, you might also pass by your local partner's office. I know they have one in Santiago, and they'll be more than happy to give you a stamp, and it might be quite a nice souvenir as well. But yeah.
And it'll usually say, I think the word is cella, which means stamp. So you'll see the sign and you know there, then you can get your stamp there. But there's no particular places you have to stop at all. Okay, so I've got just a couple more here. So Susan's been asking if you get a different Compostela for the Santiago to Finisterre. You don't actually get a Compostela for this section because that's basically it's a kind of continuation of the Camino route. So you walk to Finisterre, so it doesn't actually qualify for the Compostela. We pick that up in Santiago. So I believe that that is the end of our questions. We've maybe got one more question. I think from Sinead has just got one come in here.
Yeah, I've got one from Adrian, that is asked if there's Wi-Fi at the accommodations. It depends on the accommodation. Most of the accommodations that we use will have Wi-Fi. If it's not available in the room, it should definitely be available at the kind of reception area. But if you have any concerns about that, let us know and we can check the individual accommodations for you and just confirm that.
Okay, and I think we've just got one more question just about some medicine. And will accommodation have freezers to keep medications and it needs to be kept cold? That's a very good question, Maureen. With that kind of thing, I would always, if you can maybe drop us a line, and just with your booking reference number, or we can try and contact you afterwards, because what we can do is we can actually make sure that we can arrange that at your accommodations. It's obviously really important, so we wouldn't want to say for definite that every accommodation could do this. Quite a few of them will be able to, but what we can do is actually just check that out in advance for you, and just make sure we can try and put the arrangements in place for that. Okay, so I believe that we're just going to wrap up now. So basically, after this, the webinar will be getting sent out to you as a recording, which you can listen to at your own time, and maybe try to listen to our Scottish accents in your own speed. I hope we haven't been speaking too fast. There is an event page that you can visit at www.maxadventure.com/about-us/events. This is all in the presentation as well. We do also have a new smartphone app which will be out shortly, just in case you're interested in that. And also there's some other resources on here as well, with regards to fitness advice, weather links, all the questions and answers will be on there, and lots of travel information as well. Okay, so I believe that's us finished for today. Thank you everybody for tuning in to listen to us. I'm sure you're all going to have a fantastic experience on your Camino, but if you do have any other questions at all before you go, please don't hesitate to contact us, and all that's left to say for just now is buen camino.